Paul Ryan went after Democrats in his speech yesterday at the RNC. Let's check that out.
It's the last chapter of an old story. Progressives deliver everything except progress. Yet, we know better than most. We know better than to think that Republicans can win only on the failures of Democrats. It still comes down to a contest of ideas, which is really good news, ladies and gentlemen, because when it's about ideas, the advantage goes to us.
That is cute. When it's about ideas, the advantage goes to Republicans. My ass cheeks. All right, so where do you guys stand on social issues? You just put in your plan an anti-porn provision. Your fucking platform says porn is a public health crisis and a, quote, menace. By the way, guns? No public health crisis there. 32,000 people dying every year in the U.S. because of gun violence? That's irrelevant. But porn, God forbid you beat off. Oh, a menace. A menace. We're the ideas party. Ideas like don't fucking masturbate. So this party, they also put in there, they're still anti-gay in 2016 in their platform. Guys, we have gay marriage now nationwide. Over. It's over. Checkmate, bitch. You lost. It's kind of like with interracial marriage. It's like, and by the way, it wasn't that long ago that interracial marriage was still banned in some states. But it's like the same year or the year after you finally get interracial marriage to be legal all throughout the country. The Republicans putting in their platform, we're still against it because you shouldn't intermix with the different races. Everybody look at it and go, how fucking stupid are you? You are so incredibly stupid. When it comes to gays, they're still blinded. They're still like, history's not going to judge us harshly. I don't know what you're talking about. We're right because Jesus and traditional family values in the Bible. Except read the Bible, you idiots. The number one form of marriage in there is polygamy. You want to know what other kind of, relationships they have in there? There's one point in the Bible where daughters get their father drunk and then they rape him. Hashtag biblical values. Put that in the platform, man. Got to put it in place of Bible. And they do say in the platform, man's law needs to coincide with God's law. They just call for a Christian theocracy. They say the Bible should be taught in public schools in the platform. Okay, thank you for admitting you want to be the Christian Saudi Arabia. That's what you want to be. You're admitting it. And that Paul Ryan has the nerve to go out there. You know, when it comes to ideas, we're the ideas party. If you mean bad ideas, yeah. What a child, man. I'm done fucking around with these people. Look at, and this is low-hanging fruit, because I'm just picking on the social issues now, and that's obviously where they're most primitive and inferior. But let's go to other areas. People go, oh, come on, Kyle. When it comes to the economy, you can't say that they have old, stale ideas. Yes, I can, and I just did. Why? Dude, they're making the same arguments they made in the 1920s. I'm not kidding. So what arguments did they make back then? Well, smartest guys in the room, guys on Wall Street, business can take care of itself. You don't need regulations. That's excessive. That's burdensome. That's red tape. Get rid of it. Get rid of the regulations, cut taxes for the rich, and then everything will be great. What happened? Boom! Great Depression. Now, after the Great Depression, what happened? FDR comes in. He goes, this is fucking mental what you guys did. We need to regulate the economy, and we need to do the New Deal. So the New Deal, hey, give people jobs, have basic workplace regulations. And the economy was relatively stable for a while. You put into place something like Glass-Steagall and you separate commercial banking from investment banking, all of a sudden there's much less risk in the economy. And we had a stable banking system for decades. In comes Ronald Reagan, uses the same dumbass ideas that Republicans were parroting in the 20s, and by the way, back in the teens also. No, this is a terrible idea. We need to make more profit. We got to make more profit in the short term and crash the economy in the long term, so let's deregulate more and let's cut taxes for the rich more. They thought it was a brilliant idea all over again. What happened? As soon as we implemented those policies, all of a sudden, the big dip recessions come back. Look at what happened. And by the way, the Democrats are no prize on this either, but they have bought into the right-wing philosophy to a certain extent. That's why when Bill Clinton signed the repeal of Glass-Steagall and the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act, that helped lead to the 2008 subprime mortgage crisis and the Great Recession. So it's also the Democrats who have bought into this, but it's a right-wing philosophy, and they shouldn't have bought into it. But their ideas are still the same. Cut taxes for the rich, deregulate, that'll fix every problem ever. And Paul Ryan saying, oh, we're the party of ideas. You're the party of ideas that have been repeatedly proven incorrect. It's not a matter of opinion like, hey, maybe the right-wing ideas will work. No, but we have the information. Did you know that Canada largely weathered the subprime mortgage crisis and the Great Recession compared to the United States? Why? They never deregulated their banking system in the same way we did. Same thing in Denmark. Or, no, I'm sorry, there was a response where they jailed bankers. And they nationalized the banks real quick. And then they got on their feet faster than anybody else. Why? Because they said, hey, we're not going to go in a right-wing direction. We're going to go in a left-wing direction. And that worked. It worked. It worked. And he says, oh, progressives bring everything except progress. Even when you look at shitty progressives, who you could argue aren't even necessarily progressives, like Obama, a really centrist, corporatist Democrat, even when you look at him, oh, we've had no progress? How about that Iran deal? How's that going? It's going fucking wonderful. Iran has their path to a nuke cut off. You should be thanking Obama instead of slamming Obama. How about the deal with Cuba? Oh, look at that. We made a deal with Cuba. All of a sudden, a few months later, now all of a sudden they're having conversations about legalizing micro businesses. You know what that means? Opening it up to capitalism and private enterprise. You should be saying, thanks, Obama, and meaning it. That is progress. That is progress. You know what else is progress? Releasing nonviolent drug offenders, pardoning and commuting their sentences, as he's been doing in his second term. Guys, Obama, like I said, is centrist at best, okay? And even his philosophy, since it's further left on the spectrum than these idiots, has shown us much more progress and much more advancement than anything they've ever done. What did George W. Bush get us? These guys act like their ideas have never been tested. George W. Bush gave us 2 wars that he put on the fucking credit card, an exploding deficit, an exploding debt, an economic crash that happened under him. And the list goes on and on. Torture, NSA spying. Paul Ryan looks at this shit and his takeaway is, ha, fucking Democrats. Republicans are the party of ideas. Ideas like torture, ideas like spying, ideas like unnecessary wars, ideas like crashing the economy, things like that. But let's not get into the minor details.